What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the quartering with some amazing news. You want to get that thumbs up button ready, just hover over it. Are you ready for some good news? Because this channel has covered, in fact, in a lot of ways, has been a hub for a lot of what was going on in the end of Stan Lee's life, a lot of the unfortunateness of what was going on between him and his daughter, him and his manager, Kaya Morgan, him and nurses. Well, I'm not going to bury the lead right now, but I'm going to give you the full story in a second. His manager a warrant has been issued for the arrest of Kaya Morgan on 5 counts of elder abuse. Let's get into it. Now, I first want to start off with a bit of a recap of some of the craziness that was going on with Stan Lee near the end. You had stories like this. Stan Lee's blood was used to sign comics sold in Las Vegas. Stan Lee, the legendary comics figure who helped bring many of Marvel's most iconic characters to life, has been in the news lately for reasons beyond his comics legacy. Over the last month, several reports of Lee's personal life have uncovered bizarre attempts to capitalize on the 95-year-old's fortunes, and a new twist in the tale makes the saga even stranger. In the wake of the Daily Beast reporting that Lee's finances have allegedly been drained in part by ongoing disputes with former business partner associated with the Hands of Respect, a for-profit charitable organization, and both Lee and his daughter JC were formerly involved with. This week's celebrity news site, TMZ, reported that former business associate forged medical documents last October to instruct Lee's personal nurse to drain several vials of Stan Lee's blood. That's right. Originally, TMZ reported that people close to Lee were concerned that the blood itself was going to be sold off in the actual form of pens containing an ink as a substitute, but an update claimed today that the site alleges the blood had been instead used to stamp Stan Lee's signature onto several recent Marvel comics, the Mighty Thor 700, the variant cover of Rise of Black Panther #1, and a couple others, apparently. So, again, this is the kind of stuff that was going on with Stan Lee. Again, also back in June, more reports detailing Stan Lee's recent financial woes and allegations of elder abuse have surfaced this week, and it's become increasingly clear that the 95-year-old comics legend had been in desperate need of someone to protect him from those seeking to take advantage. I remember pleading online, pleading to people near him, like Kevin Smith. I even had one of his security guards reach out to me, trying to figure out what the heck was going on. And I think near the end, he basically had enough. And it was, you know, let's always remember and honor the contribution that Stan Lee made, because no one will ever take that away. But I'll never forget how his family and close friends treated him near the end. I'll never forget how people like Kevin Smith, who supposedly loved him, was doing nothing that I could see publicly. Maybe he was privately. I don't know. He never said anything about it. He was getting moved around. His money was getting siphoned off. People were buying stuff with his cash. He was getting forced to record these weird videos. Do you remember those videos? How creepy they were? Where like Stan Lee was like basically reading from a script that Kaya Morgan apparently made him do. And we're going to get into all that in a minute. But I just want to bring everybody up to speed, because there's probably 100 or 200,000 more of you now on this channel than there were when I originally started it. Now, again, remember, Stan Lee had his Facebook taken away and his other stuff, his Instagram. He put this out saying that, you know, other people, it was so weird. While Morgan would not be the first business partner that Lee distanced himself from in recent months, Lee's restraining order issued is noteworthy considering the slew of video messages and photos he's posted to Twitter recently expressing his faith in Morgan. After months of general inactivity, Lee suddenly returned to Twitter earlier this year, alleging that all of his other social media accounts had been hacked and that Morgan was his only business partner and with the authority to speak on his behalf. That was so weird. I remember thinking, like, who's holding that camera? Who's telling him what to say? Of course, As strange and upsetting as it is to see Lee becoming more embroiled in this kind of ugly, messy public drama, it appears that he might have finally been getting ready to sort the whole mess out and finally put some distance between himself and anyone who's trying to get their pound of flesh from him. As of June 13th, the article has been updated to reflect that Lee was temporarily granted, at his request, a restraining order today. A court decided the order would be permanent on July 6th. That's when they would decide. And this guy is just, I mean, I won't go through everything because I want to cover the victory, the good news here more. But as of this morning, actually, this is more. So there were also allegations against JC, his daughter, crazy arguments about how she wanted her dad's money and he wouldn't give her any money because she didn't work for nothing. JC Lee sat in court and smiled when the judge refused to recognize Lallis. Attorney working with her had provided a signed declaration from Stan Lee denouncing Lallis. A hearing came to the anniversary of their passing. New restraining order against Morgan, 42-year-old movie producer, had been worked as Lee's manager and personal advisor, demands that he keep away from Lee, Lee's daughter, and Lee's brother. I don't think we'll ever know everything that was going on. This was back in July. Fast forward to today, Stan Lee's business manager charged. That's right, 5 counts, arrest warrant issued. Stan Lee's former business manager has been charged with 5 counts of elder abuse and the co-creator of the Avengers and Spider-Man, who died last year at the age of 95. The LA Superior Court has issued an arrest warrant against K.O. Morgan, a New York memorabilia dealer who became a close companion to Lee, for charges including false imprisonment, forgery, and fraud. These date back to June 2018, when Lee's attorney first applied for the restraining order against Morgan. Following the incident in May, in which police and social worker were called to Lee's home in Los Angeles to perform a welfare check, Morgan was reported to have dialed 911 and tried to get the visiting police arrested, saying that they were imposters and trespassing on Lee's property. Think about that. Do you remember when I reported on that this summer? Essentially, somebody finally called in a welfare check. Maybe it was one of you. Maybe it was one of the viewers of my videos. Maybe it was another person close to Stanley. So the cops show up to do a welfare check. Then this guy calls the cops on the cops to try to stop it. It was insane. In the application for the restraining order, Morgan was accused of isolating Lee from family and friends, exploiting their relationship in order to embezzle artwork, cash, and other assets worth more than $5 million. In August, Lee was granted an order against Morgan, which required him to stay at least 100 yards away from the Marvel Magnet for Magnet. I never say that right. For at least 3 years. That same month, lawyers Kirk Schneck and Jonathan Freund, representing Lee and his daughter, JC, told The Guardian that since the passing of Lee's wife, Joan, in 2017, there has been multiple men who tried to attach themselves to Stan and various businesses to manage his affairs. Elder abuse is becoming more and more common as celebrities and famous world figures live longer and longer, amassing significant wealth profile along their way. Many elderly artists like Stan Lee are creative personality types that tended to defer financial decisions to others their whole life. The problem arises as celebrities get older and slowly lose their ability to monitor their fiduciaries, even ones they've trusted for years, and Schneck at that time. This is awesome. And I assume by the time you see this video, he will have been arrested or will have turned himself in. Again, former business partner and caretaker for late comic book legend Stan Lee has been charged with felony elder abuse. K.O. Morgan, 43, was charged with felony counts of the false imprisonment, elder, adult, theft, embezzlement, forgery, and fraud. And this is a serious crime. This is like, I mean, we're talking about real prison time here. A warrant is currently out for his arrest. In June 2018, Morgan was arrested on allegations that he made 2 fake 911 calls on the same night of May of 2018. The first falsely claimed that the burglars were in Lee's house. In fact, the police were conducting a welfare check on Lee. The second call falsely claimed Morgan that had been assaulted by one of Lee's personal security guards. That totally doesn't seem like an absolute mad person getting desperate as their house of cards is falling apart. And whatever happens, you know, I can guarantee you there are comic book fans in prison. And I hope and pray that they welcome K.O. Morgan in the most appropriate of ways. Now, I obviously wouldn't, you know, I'm not saying anything in particular here, but I mean, I'm just saying there are comic book fans in prison that love Stan Lee, that grew up with Stan Lee, that know that Stan Lee was and lived his life in a way that is to be honored. I want to finish this by saying, Stan Lee loved his fans until the very end. Okay? He was the gold standard and is the gold standard for any fandom, period. All right? There might be some imitators or some people that are not imitating, but there might be some people that are close like Stan Lee, but Stan Lee is the absolute gold standard, defending his fans to the very end. Every decision that man made was for his fans. When he was in his late 90s, sick, decrepit, falling apart physically, that man went to his autograph signings at all of these Comic Cons. That man flew in to every possible comic convention that he could right up until the very end because he loved his fans. And in the end, I'm hoping it was his fans that rose up, and I hope there are a few fans behind bars to meet Mr. K.A. Morgan. I'm sure things will end up just fine for him. I hope you enjoyed this video. Spread the news. Share it out. Justice for Stan Lee happened. I'm only saddened that he wasn't here to see it happen, but I'm sure he's looking down upon it with a wry smile. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.